Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. I'm very happy to be able to take part in the conference. And I would like to present this on behalf of the co-authors, Małgorzata Walędzik, Tomasz Kamiński, and Konstantinos Demestichas. Tomasz and I are from the Institute of Vehicle Transport. Konstantinos Demestichas is from Athens University of Technology. And as was said earlier, the presentation is about the analysis of organizational legal possibilities to reduce the risks associated with the transportation of dangerous goods by road in Poland. Here the main problem is the issue of road accidents and collisions that may take place during the haulage of dangerous or hazardous materials and substances, resulting obviously with the threat to human health and lives, but also for the natural environment. As the Supreme Audit Office stated, every day in Poland about 20,000 vehicles transport all kinds of dangerous or hazardous goods or material. Annually, it's 150 million tons of hazardous goods, flammable, explosive, corrosive, toxic, or even radioactive. That is why limiting the risks related to the transportation, the haulage of hazardous goods is so important. In terms of methodology, the presentation analyzes the aggregated data that has been collected from the various institutions and organizations that participate in the various scope in the monitoring and controlling of the transportation. That's the Ministry of Transport, the transport supervisions, the marshals of the various regions. The analysis of the aggregated data allowed us to identify certain organizational and legal possibilities to limit the risks related to the transportation of these type of materials. In this paper, we analyzed the mechanisms of supervision over the transportation. We ran a statistical analysis of fires involving hazardous materials, and we also presented the possibilities for improving BRD related to the haulage of hazardous substances. We are also attempting to answer the question of how to mitigate the negative effects of haulage of hazardous materials. Hazardous materials at this point are not monitored in the same way as sensitive materials. For 2 or 3 years, we've had an obligation to monitor sensitive goods and materials, but it's important to do the same with hazardous ones, because it turns out that the transportation of these constitute a very high percentage of all goods hauled, even up to 50%. So there is a need to monitor and supervise these goods. In conclusion, an increase in the number of road accidents causes an increase in the cost of neutralization of those materials, and obviously is related to an obvious hazard for the communities of where the accident takes place. Also, the transportation of hazardous materials is not sufficiently monitored, so we have to use the available possibilities to minimize future threats. It could actually turn out that this is not so costly. The implementation of monitoring systems for hazardous materials and goods would just entail the extension of the existing system that exists for sensitive materials and just include hazardous. Certain organizational solutions already are in place. Certain legal solutions are in place. So it would not be so costly, even for the haulage companies, because there's a number of fleet management programs and intelligent tachymeters that could be used for that very purpose. The introduction of these sort of solutions will actually also be positive for the haulage companies, because they could use these systems to minimize risk and that way to mitigate, limit the cost of the operations.